President Trump seeking to abuse government power to shape culture and censor free speech. The White House says it will do a review of Smithsonian Museum exhibits so that they align with Trump's vision. They're admitting partisan abuse of a hallowed institution that is supposed to provide accurate history, beautiful art, and truth, but not switch every 4 years based on politics. Renowned painter Amy Sherald actually pulled out of a Smithsonian exhibit to show, by walking away, that she was not going to put up with any such distortions. For example, her paintings, including one that imagined a sort of trans Statue of Liberty, facing pressure from this partisan, big government, anti-free speech administration. His attempts at a cult of personality are also becoming quite noticeable and at times bizarre. He said he will personally host this year's honors ceremony at Kennedy Center, obviously giving a tell to how he views not only his schedule, because you should be busy doing, peace negotiations, but also that he sees himself on par with the usual approach and honorees.
The Kennedy Center honors have been among the most prestigious awards in the performing arts. I wanted one. I was never able to get one. The hell with it. I'll become chairman. And I'll give myself an honor.
The joke is not a joke. He is upset about his prior treatment and wants everything to be political. Remember, even if you are a traditional conservative, even a Republican or MAGA voter, most people do not want politics rubbed and distorted over every single part of our American culture. Let the artists decide. That's why we go to see art. The broader backdrop is the abuse of power, the threats to companies, the misuse of the merger approval process that we've covered, shows that now even Hollywood, which of course is just a bunch of businesses, are chasing red state audiences, and shows trying to go after what is a suddenly prized demographic. Reporters from The New Yorker chasing that story, and entire corporations are bowing to powerful right-wing actors, including cutting normal diversity programs or recruitment, the Paramount Skydance merger as measured, and that is just the tip of the censorship iceberg. To get into this story, we have what we think is a great guest tonight, Don Lemon, who of course is a serious reporter and anchor. We showed him out in the field earlier in the program, but also, quite frankly, a knowledgeable part of our culture.
Many New Yorkers are not changing their routines despite the latest terror warnings. Are you racist?
I am the least racist person that you have ever met.
We're on the eve of Super Tuesday, Senator. What's the one thing you want voters there and across the country to know before they cast their vote?
What do you talk about?
Oh, cookies! And pretty much cookies.
The Cookie Monster interview, not an easy get. I've never gotten one of those. I do it. Looks fun. I want to mention, of course, the Don Lemon Show on YouTube, where a lot of Don's longtime viewers and fans catch up with him. And he's the author of I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America, the book that brings him to us tonight. Great to have you.
Thank you. And I write about this.
What do you see in Trump here?
I say that money-driven mass media created Trump. He's a creation of that, so we shouldn't be surprised that he's a bloviator. Here's the good thing. By the way, I just want to say, Amy Sherald is a friend of mine. I've never been prouder of her. I'm so happy that she's doing what she's doing, and I think this is actually going to be helpful to her. And I think in some strange way, this will be helpful to other artists. As you know, you're a huge fan of rap and hip-hop. So art is artists like the fire. It makes them better. And so Donald Trump thinks that he's, helping or he's changing or whatever he thinks that he's doing with artists, but he's actually helping them, in a sense, to become better artists. This is art in itself, what Donald Trump is doing. It is performance art, bad performance art, that he's going to get roasted by artists, whether it's rappers, whether it's painters, whether it's photographers, or whatever it is. Artists are going to get us out of this terrible time that we're in. I believe it's going to be artists, because it's definitely not journalism right now for the most part. Because, as you know, you mentioned in the run-up to when you were introducing me, a lot of folks are bending the knee. Artists don't do that. They do what Amy Sherald did, and they say, you're not changing my art. It's for consumption of people, not for... It's not about perfection of what you want.
Well, you make an interesting point that by being so invasive and Trump using big federal government power to go into these places, it puts more people in that decision of, hey, the old book, you can't be neutral on a moving train.
Right, right.
To be quiet and just go along with, say, a campus, a college, or an institution, a museum, saying, hey, we like some of this. We're just going to remove the parts of your statement that offend the current government.
Yeah.
You know, that's not America, and that's not something I think a lot of artists want to be neutral on. I'll show you some of these headlines. Trump says Gayle King's career is over.
Yeah. Trump wants to be friends with Gayle King. He wants to be friends with Oprah. He wants to be friends with all celebrities.
Kimmel, all these headlines. What do you see here in what's animating what is clearly a personal vendetta?
Well, he feels, somehow spited or slighted, I should say, by celebrity and by his once liberal friends who he loved hanging out with, who he invited to his multiple weddings and different babies' mamas. And so he feels slighted by that. So this is a revenge tour. It's nothing more than that. And look, people, I don't have very many positive things, if any at all, to say about Donald Trump. And I've interviewed him 6-8 times, maybe more. He would call in from, when I was on CNN, he'd call in, I don't know where he was, in the bed, the toilet, whatever he was, seriously. And he would just call in and talk and ramble and rant. And so I don't have very many positive things to say about him because there aren't really any positive things to say about him. What he's doing is objectively bad for the world, is objectively bad for our democracy, and it should be called as such. There should not be false equivalence with anything that Donald Trump does because he doesn't play by the rules. He's not fair. Look what he's trying to do. We mentioned with the arts. Look what he's trying to do around the country. He's trying to steal elections right now.
Yeah, and trying to rewrite the rules.
People are pretending as if this is something that's normal, and they're treating it like, oh, well, let's have a conversation about this. No, what he's doing is bad. This is not a census year. This should not be happening. He should not be calling governors because he's afraid of losing the midterms, to try to steer elections in a certain direction.
Yeah, and as you say, we're in a society right now where the incumbent government says, well, if we're going to lose power in a free and fair election, then let's not have one.
Right.
Let's have an unfair election. Let's change the rules. As for late night, I'll show how some of this is playing out. Let's take a look.
After naming himself chairman of the Kennedy Center, today, President Trump announced this year's honorees. Trump said he picked Kiss because they're one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, and also because they wear as much makeup as he does.
Yeah, give him something stupid to do to keep him out of trouble. Hosting award shows is what he envisioned being president is in the first place.
He could be the host at Applebee's, anything that distracts him from running this country into the ground.
This is
Told you.
Yeah, I mean, this is the back and forth, and this is what the country's experiencing, and his approval is sinking. I mean, there's no evidence that people want this.
Look, whether you think that art or politics is downstream from culture, or culture is downstream from politics, Donald Trump is losing by every single measure. He's underwater 68 points with black people. He's underwater 43 points with Hispanic. He's even underwater 5 points with white voters. And brand new Pew Research polling shows that he has a 38% approval rating and a 60% disapproval rating. Now, he's still president of the United States.
Yeah.
Elections have consequences. We just have to buckle up and figure out how to get through the next couple of years so that some semblance of democracy can be brought back to America and really to the world, because we're supposed to be showing the world what democracy is really like. We're not doing such a good job right now.
Given your extensive experience in the job, and it's easy to sit outside and throw darts.
Yeah.
And the media, we need some darts because sometimes people make important critiques. But you've actually done the job for a long time.
Yeah.
When you see this many corporate owners give up this quickly, either for financial reasons or just general fear, we saw it at CBS. We saw ABC settle. We saw Washington Post completely change its opinion section and a lot more. And kill endorsements after a very powerful person. I mean, if Bezos can't withstand it, who can? Said, well, I think Trump has changed and I want to play ball. Given your experience, what does that look like to you? And does that concern you as someone who has been part of the credentialed press?
You want the answer? It makes me want to scream and cry at the same time because someone who I really respect said, you should be calling the person who asked you to leave CNN and telling them thank you and to kiss them, considering what's happening with journalism right now. Now, I worked with some of the best journalists in the world, and I cannot imagine what they're up against unless they're deluding themselves that something good is happening with journalism. It is not. And I don't mean necessarily in the newsrooms. We're talking about with the corporate bosses.
Yeah.
who are bending the knee, who are settling lawsuits that are winnable, who are, there's no, bulwark between the journalism and the corporate suites. That they should not be influencing journalism. History will not look back kindly or show kindly on whoever gutted the marquee journalistic institution in the world, 60 Minutes. It's not going to look kindly on that, regardless of how much money you made from it. It's going to look poorly. History's not going to look fondly on Donald Trump for doing what he's doing. Donald Trump is strong-arming, bullying corporate owners, threatening their businesses, and that is trickling down to newsrooms. And it is so obvious. You see the numbers dwindling. People say, people are just cutting the cord. It's not just cord cutting. The American public, the viewer is not stupid. They understand when people are not being real with them. They understand when people are being influenced by oligarchs or business owners or their bosses. And that's why I think, quite honestly, this is such a boon for independent journalists, because we have no corporate bosses over us. The sad thing is that we don't have the big corporate sponsorships, but that's coming. But we have no bosses over us saying, do you have to say that Donald Trump is racist? Can't you just say he's trafficking in racism? Can't you just say that some of the things he does is borders on racism? Right. No, Donald Trump is a you-know-what racist.
Do you have to say he tried to steal the election? You just say he's testing his power?
No, he's trying to steal the election. Yeah. And I think people want journalists to be straight with them and not pretend like this is normal and not pretend that not to give it false equivalence. And quite honestly, not to sit around desks like this and yell at each other. And just fight.